United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Move for approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. Happy?
So you have in front of you our proposed budget for fiscal year 2022. It starts October 1, 2021, runs through September 30 of 2022. We'll go through the big picture here in a minute, just to kind of work from left to right. But just so you know, we've included some street repaving, police cars, tourism grant, water line improvements, sewer line improvements, employee COLA and merit raise. We've increased our amount in sidewalk repairs and other items. We have not included capital items yet for the electric panel replacement at the water plant. We'll get plans and costs on that next month. Nor have I included anything, and I was thinking about this ahead of time and pushed it off. We don't have any ARPA-related projects in there yet either, because we're waiting to find out when funds would be distributed, and we still need to discuss among ourselves what you want to spend that money on. We'll get half this year, half next year. So that will be a budget. We'll amend the budget for those amounts that we decide to spend. So looking at the big picture, before we get into everybody's requests. Starting off on the left-hand side, in the purple, we have what we consider to be the unaudited balance. Sue and I come up with what we think will be left in the various budgets. That's what's in cash, what has not been spent, what we estimate, what's not going to be spent. So we're figuring almost 1.6 million will be left in the general fund unaudited balance. Our revenue is 183,000 for the police capital, their tax. There's 99,502 for the Welcome Center. That's grants and money from Park Service. General revenue outside of that's about 2.1 million. So you're looking at a total of 2.390. That's what we see for revenue. For expenses, just salaries and benefits, it's 1.375 million. For the operational part of it, that's 874,160. So our total expenses are 2.2 million. It's better this year than it was last year because we are not in a deficit. So revenue is more than operations. That's a good thing to have so that we can run the city with that 6-month number that we talked about in the general fund, keeping that balance in there. And we don't want to run over. It's best not to spend more out of operations than revenue, because then you have to dip into your savings. So capital items on the right-hand side, and we'll go through individually, but you can see where they're broken down for administration, police department, fire department, and that. Where you see the department totals, when we get into that amount of money, then we are beginning to go over what our total was on revenue. So the department total is about 2.5 million. Then you move down to capital improvements. We have another 136,000 added on there. We do end up with a deficit of 219,533. That's in the red between what our revenues are and what our total expenditures are. You see what our ending balance is at 1.158 million. That's what we expect it to be at the end of the budget year, which puts us at 52%. We were shooting for 50%, so we are over a couple of percent based on our discussion at the last meeting. This part of the general fund and all of the in all the departments includes a 1% COLA increase and a 2% merit. We're planning on 100,000 transfer to capital projects of the 325,000 that we have been requested to transfer, and we're figuring about 8% increase in health insurance premium from our health insurer. So that's the general fund. It meets our specifications from left to right. Into the enterprise and dedicated funds. I won't go into all the detail on those. Parks, we have to pull money out of general fund. As you see, we have a transfer of 50,640. We will not have money, and I put this in quotations, left over in parks at the end of the budget year. If we spend everything, we probably won't spend everything, but We balanced it out with what was left of the 21,875. And that's just how tight Parks is. Parks revenue just does not meet what our Parks expenditures are. Streets, we have about 666,000 left in there is what we're estimating. We'll have a revenue of 687,000. With everything that's involved, we're at about 855,000 for expenditures, which would leave us a balance of 498,000. For the tourism tax, we're estimating about 18,400 to spend. We had the tourism tax commission met Tuesday. Didn't have a quorum, but they saw what we wanted to spend for the 18,400. This year we had 17,000 budgeted. We've spent 3,500. So we've planned out better what we want to spend it for next year. And we'll talk about that when we get into our other expenditures. So we're leaving a balance of tourism at about 66,150. Band fund, balance of 63,212. We're spending 53,000 is what we estimate. Cemetery fund, we do have one expenditure coming out of there, plus the operational amounts. So we have a balance of 228,950. We'll end up with 234,000 in there. I think what we're eventually looking for is buying property if we need to expand that, buying property, expanding the cemetery. We still have property left as you go to the south. For special road districts, no income from there this coming year anticipated. For the water fund, we put the E next to that because that's an enterprise fund. So our balance there is about 919,000. We're expecting revenues of 1.559 million. You can see what our salaries and benefits, these are our office staff, 63,242. Our operational expenditures of 1,104, or 1.1 million. We have debt service of 256,000. We have capital items of about 405,000, giving us a total of 1.8 million expenditures. We estimate about 649,000 left in that fund at the end of the budget year. In sewer, we have a balance, or estimating a balance of 666,000. 803,000 is what we figure on income. We have 63,242 in salaries and benefits, 574 in operational. Debt service there is 76,709. 225,000 is what we estimate for capital items. So our expenditures there are 939,748. Our estimated balance at the end of the year would be 530,295. Downtown TIF, that's pretty much just spending what we get in the way of sales tax, giving that back to those that participate. So we figure we're going to spend about 22,000 out of that this year. Debt service is a balance of 252,000. We estimate 331,500 would be our revenue. We have some expenses for auditing at 3,000. Our debt service there, because it is the debt service fund, is 201,518. We are anticipating spending $100,000 on an improvement to City Hall. 304,000 is what we estimate our total expenditures. So we would have a balance of 278,982, which is good because that covers our debt service that we have in that line item. In the rural fire fund, 123,000 is what our balance is. We get about 30,000 a year in fire tags, 6,000 again for auditing. 44,000 is actually a holdover from this year because we're not going to get the truck by the end of the budget year. So we've pushed it to next year. So our expenditures are 50,000 and 103,240 is what our balance will be at the end of the year. And in capital projects, we're at 1.9 million. That is a typo under revenue. That should be 100,000. 2,500 is what we have for operational. Again, that's the auditing. 35,000 is what we have proposed capital item out of there. So 37.5 is our total expenditure. 1.8 million, actually it'll be more than that, be about 1.9 something, almost 2 with the 100,000. So we're starting off the beginning of the year. Total revenue is going to be about $6.1 million. Our beginning balance is about 6.1 million. We're estimating that we're going to have a fund balance for all funds added together of about $5.4 million. So this is where we come up with the term we spend about 5 to 6 million. So we don't add everything together, it's what we actually have for expenditures, revenues and expenditures, and that's how we figure it out. So that's a quick look at the overall budget. Any questions?
What is our overall debt by department, water, sewer?
So I don't have totals, that would be in the audit that you get every year.
Right.
So we have, what we have is what we have for our yearly expenditures on here. Sue, do you know what any of those numbers are for total debt for water sewer?
Water is probably, without looking at the paper, around 400,000, and sewer is probably like 250,000.
Okay. So I can get you those numbers, but we'd have to look at what the last audit
Sure.
was to find those.
Yeah.
That's the easiest way to find them.
Right.
Anything else? Okay.
You're gonna drill down into streets at some point, right?
Yeah, so I don't want to cover everything.
Right,
That's why I brought these folks.
right. Well, okay, so maybe this is a good general question for you. If this is better placed towards the end, let me know and I'll hold on this, but I'm noticing, and maybe this slipped past me in other meetings, but when I'm looking at this list of streets now, priority-wise, Parkwood now is marked with ARPA funds.
Yes.
So, on that, are you telling me that that's not gonna happen unless ARPA funds are approved? Are those funds approved and set aside for that right now?
So that's my recommendation.
Right.
With the amount of streets that we want to try to get done, if you allot that to Parkwood, you can see what that total would be, and would knock out a number of street projects that we have planned.
Okay, so the answer I'm looking for then, not that you need to give me the answer I'm looking for, but I think what I'm hearing from you is that Parkwood is an unknown because of the status of the ARPA funds at this point.
No, the plan is that we would be able to recoup money into our general fund to spend it on roads. If you remember the layout of what you could spend things on, you could spend on water, sewer, broadband, revenue. You could do it for salaries for those workers that were through COVID. There was regulations on that. But what we had found is that if we put it back into the general fund, then we can then reapply it to roads, because that is one of the items that the Treasury has said we can do. So if we want to do a number of streets, which I think would be easier with asphalt, because Parkwood is going to be very expensive with the concrete, and it needs to be broken up and then re-poured. It's such an expense that it would be almost 75% of your budget. So you would only get to do 3 or 4 other projects, small projects.
I'll stop you when you're wrong.
And we had Parkwood on for this year. We did not do it. So it's pushed off to the next year. And this is how I thought, it was one of my proposals for this year, is that we would use ARPA funds to do that.
Okay, I mean, obviously you can hear in my tone, I want to fight for Parkwood because it's terrible, and it needs to be done the right way. They're all terrible. And they're all terrible. I just heard from another peer, and I agree. But I'm looking for anything that jeopardizes Parkwood, and I think I'm hearing it, but I don't know.
Are we confident in the plan for ARPA funds to be able to cover it?
At this
Okay,
point,
that
because of the way
goes-
we were given a set of instructions on how to figure what revenue should have been based on what the estimate was for all communities, and then where we should start, where we should end. So we did that calculation and found that we had a lack of revenue that we can replace. I don't think we need to replace all of it. And we have, again, 2 tranches worth of money coming in. But that's one, we have a number of items that we've started talking about. And that would be one of them that would be included with that grouping of, if we want to do water lines under the bridge or under the creeks, if we want to do, property purchase for low-income housing, if we want to do other projects that go along with what the requirements are from Treasury.
Okay, well, I'll hold further comments until it becomes more appropriate in the meeting or other meetings.
And I think what we talked about last year when we did streets is, we've given you a basic list. We want to start that off because these are the ones that Gary and I have gone out and looked at, done the whole tour back in February. These are the ones that need the repair the most because they were our lowest scoring streets. So I put them on the list and then we work through it. You'll notice we don't have everything listed or we don't even recommend everything on the list because we have a limited amount of money again, and so we have to pick and choose what we want to do.
So of the ones that recommended the rank order on this list, these are according worst to best.
Well, those are all bad. I have to pick and choose based on what I'm trying to figure out for a budget.
Okay.
So we're going for 200,000, leaving 50,000 kind of, to if you want to add some more.
Gotcha.
But that was where I had to stop.
Okay, fair enough.
Anything else? All right, David Bova's up first with his request.
Let's see about that.
Oh, man.
Mine's short and sweet. You're welcome. So we approved a grant in 2019 that COVID kind of kicked down the street a little bit, and we got it done this year, of which we'll get about 9,100 back. So, of course, that grant is available to us again this year. It's a Historic Preservation Fund grant. It's federal funds that pass through the State Historic Preservation Office, and I'd like to apply for another, approximately $15,000 grant that would either fund another workshop, so it'd be like exterior painting or exterior masonry work, all things that need to be improved in the historic district, or an expansion of our survey. So our survey for all the historic structures in the historic district runs from approximately 1785 to 1945, and some on the Heritage Commission would like to bump that up to 1960, 1965, and include some mid-century modern, and those would have to be surveyed. There's about 60 structures that would fall into that. That would cost about another $15,000 or $20,000. Or we could work out some other sort of project. There's an idea that maybe we could do something in coordination with some local carpenters to encourage more training on restoring and repairing historic structures versus just learning how to, stud a wall or something of that nature. So those are three options. I just wanted to put them out there for you, but these funds will be available to us. We're a certified local government, so we're usually first considered on the list, and I'd like to apply for that again this year.
Can you remind us what the match was on that particular
It was
grant?
60-40, so I just submitted the reimbursement. I believe we spent approximately $14,500, and of that we get about 9,100 back.
Sounds great.
How do you do the grant? Do you make one up?
Yep. So we fill out the application, get a lot
Yeah,
of
fill in the
supporting documentation, fill out a budget.
Right.
Mhm. That's due by the end of September, so, as long as we move forward with this, I would submit that application by the end of September and go from there.
Oh, yes.
Sounds good.
Any questions? Short and sweet.
You're right. Thank you, David.
Thank you, sir.
David.
All right, Ken Steiger's up next.
Steiger. Steiger.
Evening, everybody.
Evening, Chief.
Basically, my budget is the same request we had last year, minus the painting of the firehouse, with the one exception for the item that we talked about last board meeting, that we're adding a annual certification line item, and there's a amount in there that needs to be put in for this year because of SCBA testing. In our regular fire, the only two things we're looking for major purchase or capital improvements is a couple of computer replacements. Some of ours actually probably will do desktops. There's one in our training room that we use to put training programs on the projector. It's about 5 or 6 years old. And then the other one's turnout gear replacement. We want to try to continue the 4 sets of gear every year. So we're replacing some of our older stuff and making it safer for our guys. And in the rural fire fund, we have the $6,000 for our training. And what we use that for is firefighter 1 and 2, so when we get people that are willing to go, we have the funds there to do it. And I have had one guy that's approached me this year, and he's wanting to get started on the process. And that ends up being about $800 for the actual class, and then it ends up being a couple $100 for books, so about $1,000 a guy. I do have potentially 5 or 6 people that need to go, but scheduling and everything else, I don't know that that's gonna happen. And then as Happy said, the $44,000 there is a carryover because the truck isn't gonna be ready by the end of the budget. And then we have $12,000 there that we use kind of as a contingency. So if something comes up unexpected, we have funds available to do a major unexpected repair. Or one of the projects that I'm working on right now is our vehicles trying to get the headsets that are hearing protection and intercom within our trucks so it protects the guy's hearing. We actually have bought one of those sets for one of our trucks now, and I'm working on getting it installed. Open to any kind of questions.
Who installed that?
Wireless USA.
Oh, wireless.
Yeah, it's a specific thing, a fire comm system, and it takes more expertise than we do.
Kenny, didn't you have, or was it last year, concerning the turnout gear, weren't you trying to get some kind of cleaning thing to do that, or did you get that?
I got that on grant. We were looking for what they call a turnout gear cleaner or extractor. Got that off of a Wholesome grant, actually 2 years ago. And then I bought some extra cleaning supplies out of the grant this year.
Right.
Open it for any other questions.
Well, Chief, you're replacing computers, or you're requesting that. What are you gonna do with the old ones?
That I need to find out from my administrator. This is new to us. We usually run things till they quit and break and then buy a replacement. One of them, one of our current desktops will probably go at my desk as a backup. I carry a laptop so I can do some of the work at home and at my full-time job. But it'd be nice to be able to just flip back there and get on the internet without having to go through the trouble of setting up a laptop.
There you go.
But that's all to be determined is if the budget gets approved.
And that's everything?
Good.
That's what you're looking for?
Yeah, just
Fantastic.
try to keep it simple.
I think it looks great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
For me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Chief, we love those grants.
Appreciate that.
We love them.
Next up, Gary Ross.
And David Bova, we love those grants.
I know, I like it. Yeah. Well, no.
Hello.
Oh,
Hey, Gary.
Well, mine's probably even simpler yet. On the parts, I got in for a new bagger for the Hustler, and that's, so we keep the soccer field bag. We use it when we do the cemetery for the Deja Vu thing. But that's it on that, other than the trail grant.
So are you gonna be mowing the cemetery?
We clean it up for the Deja Vu,
Oh, because they don't mow.
right.
Oh, that's what I mean.
And we
Thanks.
chop up
Sorry.
and pick up the leaves.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
probably live now too. Where did you get them, Ray?
Snickers still a couple of years. That's it on parts.
Who's doing the trail grants? Are you doing that?
Trail grant.
I heard crabgrass. I'm still thinking what's in the
What's in the
cemetery.
bagger?
So yeah, I'll be doing the trail grant.
Okay, thanks.
I'm happy. How much of the trail is that cover?
What, a fifth of a mile, 500 feet. Goes from the big pavilion down to the first small pavilion as you go towards the soccer fields.
And is this for our match portion of the?
This is the total amount, so we figure money in and then money out.
Is that the 8-foot line?
10 foot.
10-foot concrete.
I like that.
Yep.
Gary, what's the front building improvement?
Oh, on the street?
Oh, sorry.
Have we left parks?
We were moving on. I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm getting ahead of things.
What happened there?
Yeah,
Should I say it again? Ooh, we love these grants.
We just put some money in to try to cover the glass, something to spruce the front of the building up.
Okay.
Put a sign up that says what it is.
Yeah.
Replace the dump truck bed, which I think you guys seen on the tour that night. Seal coat Progress Parkway, front of the building improvements, the street projects, the sidewalk reimbursement, we upped, hoping to initiate more people to do sidewalk repairs. Then I had a side-by-side in that didn't make the cut.
What's the impact of that?
What's that?
How are you negatively impacted by not getting that side by side?
Well, it just works good in cleaning up areas that we saw out there behind your house. We used one to get into that.
Yeah, would have been handy for sure.
Use it, throwing mosquito biscuits, you know, weed eating off-road areas.
We had one, didn't we?
We got that old gator.
Oh.
It's going away.
Is it?
It's going away.
No, it would stay until it actually finally gives up.
Yeah. Pretty old, ain't it?
So what actually is the seal coat on Progress? What's the process?
That's the sidewalk. The sidewalk has issues with grass growing up in various seams that are running along it. So I don't want that to be, I don't want to lose it. And that's what will happen if we don't seal coat it at some point. So we put it in for next year's budget to do a seal coat from all the way from in up to where they're working on at the community center.
But you're talking about the whole area of pavement.
That would be
The walking trail.
walking
Oh,
trail.
okay.
And we do that in-house?
No,
Okay.
no, it wouldn't be practical.
That needs to be taken care of, because that trail gets a lot
That's
of
what-
traction.
That's
A
all.
lot of
I was gonna say that didn't look like enough to do the whole street.
Right. No, I think that's a great idea.
So on the dump truck bed, you have to do the whole hoist and everything, or
Yeah.
just the bed?
Be the same as the one we're replacing this year. It
Right.
should be any time now, so.
So that'll take care of the beds, won't it?
Rest of it's good.
Yeah,
Cab chassis.
yeah. It's only got 43,000 miles on it.
They don't go nowhere when they're in those
Yeah.
municipalities up there. Yep.
That it?
That's it.
Thanks, Gary.
Good.
Thanks, Gary.
Thanks, Gary.
All right, Steve Wilson, water sewer.
It must be on the backside.
Yeah, he's on the back.
Yeah, put me on the back
I
burner.
found you.
All right, hello.
Hey, Steve.
All right, start off on the water side. Water main replacement project, that's the 299,000, that's the engineer's price, or estimate. That'll take us from Robert Street, where we're at now, to Washington Street. It'll get a continuation of the line, including the creek crossing that that crosses the North Calvary Creek there.
Is that on 4th Street?
Yeah. Water tank maintenance, that's our contract with Suez. It's budgeting 45,000. Actually, we just paid them for this year, but I want to look into this upcoming year. We've been with those guys for, I don't know, Pam, how long have we been with them? So, I just want to see what's there. $25,000 for the truck, that's to replace the work order vehicle. It's a half-ton, could be a 6-cylinder V8, doesn't matter. Just a little half-ton truck to get around in. The one we have now, the suspension's pretty much shot on it. So
What is it?
so it was a salvage vehicle we bought, 2007 Ford half-ton.
Right.
So, the well cleaning, that's 29,000. We cleaned 2 wells this past year, and then these are the other 2 wells that we had planned on cleaning. Next year, we will not have that $30,000 in there, because we'll take a year off. So then the following year, we'll have it, it'll be back on. The doors on the water plant, like everything else in there that's metal, they're rusting away. You could just about come up and kick your foot through the bottom of the front door.
Could you use some different type of material?
Yeah, they make a reinforced fiberglass door with
Okay.
with a steel frame, but
Is that what you're looking at?
yeah. So that covers the water side of it. The sewer side of it, sewer main improvement, 5th Street over here, off of Market going north, that line. It zigzags, goes up, down, everywhere but a straight line and downhill. So that's that money for that line. The other one is a truck with a utility bed. It's not just a regular truck. I spoke with Happy and a few other people about it, but it's a utility bed with a crane on it, which will allow us to pull our lift station pumps, motors, heavy equipment, tools, pipe materials, hydrants. Right now, anytime that we have to pull pumps and lift stations, we have to call Equipment Pro, typically around to the tune of about $1,500 a pop. So, I know it's a lot up front, but
Well, it lasts a long time.
yeah, I mean, we probably never wear it out, but
What's the capability of that little crane?
I think it's about 2,200 pounds and they reach out about 32 feet.
That's pretty good.
And of course, the weight goes up the closer you bring the boom in.
Yeah, sure.
So,
So your water tank maintenance, that's cleaning or painting or both?
that's cleaning, painting, any maintenance. If the garage door fails on it, if the garage door opener fails on M-Road, you call them up, they come fix it. That's all included.
So how often do you have to clean those tanks?
They get cleaned every year.
Every year? So the new tank,
New tank's not on a contract yet. That's one of the other reasons I want to go see what our options are. Neither is the on-site tank at the water plant. So,
How are they cleaning on the inside?
they drain them, they go inside, they power wash them, disinfect
They
them.
have to go in, yeah, I was thinking that.
Now, they do have companies that'll come in and scuba dive and vacuum them out.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
So,
You gotta have them lights.
and that's my list.
That's pretty good.
All right.
Good work,
Glad there's
Steve.
not more than that in there.
All right, up next is the police chief, Eric Bell.
Holy cow, we're buzzing through this tonight.
Good evening.
Got a lot here.
Well, it looks like it, but they've got 2 or 3 different categories for all of their stuff. All of my stuff fits in one convenient little carrying case. There's a few things that are out of the norm here. First of all, we purchased the new computers last year. We were waiting until the remodel was done to actually get them installed, so that installation cost will be for the computers that we already own. And again, will be after we move into the new building, so, or back into the old building, I should say. The police remodel, that's just the money that they have set aside to finish that. Or we could move in right now. I mean, it looks pretty stellar
cozy.
back there. Yeah, it's pretty close.
I know what you're waiting for.
That's sarcasm, because it's not at all close, but it's your call. The vests are a maintenance item that we do every 5 years. We replace half the vests every 5 years, so they get a 5-year shelf life on the bulletproof vest, or the actual panels, so it won't be the whole carrier, just the, how old? Last year. I got this last year, yeah. So we'll just be replacing the other half of the department that didn't get a new one this time. AVL is an automatic vehicle locator. I mean, it's something that dispatch would monitor. We've never really had a huge issue with needing to locate, but should somebody not answer security checks or be out and we don't know where they are, it would help with that, or dispatch the closest unit, but we typically will have 2 people on, so chances are one of the 2 of them is going to get dispatched to us. So, I mean, if things needed to be cut, that would be a pretty easy one to lose. Video surveillance would be for the new building, hoping to put up some cameras, both exterior and maybe some interior. Would also include the recording equipment that we need for the new interview room.
That's blank.
Is it blank?
Oh, no.
That's 25,000.
Well, it
It's not
it
been
didn't make the cut.
recommended,
Oh, it's not been recommended, okay.
Right,
but,
right.
but
Well-
yeah, if you see something else in place that you'd like to take off and have that in place, I'd consider it.
Okay,
'Cause
yeah,
that
well,
sounds like something that's worth having.
The video surveillance, are we on that?
yes.
Yeah.
Chief, were you thinking about, once you find wiggle room for that, and if it goes forward, are you thinking about putting a video out in the front as well?
Well, that's a little farther down.
Oh.
The two license plate reader cameras
Okay.
that are down at the bottom, which also aren't recommended, would be cameras that we'd have access to that would essentially document every car that goes by it. It would categorize the plate. It looks for stolen plates. It looks for, you know, if there's a missing child or something like that, and they flag it with the plate. You know, every plate that goes by it actually runs it. We don't get the data on every plate,
Right.
unless it's in the hot file. If there's a want or warrant or something attached to the plate, like I said, a kidnapping or something like that would be attached to the plate. Or should we get a vehicle stolen overnight and it goes by this camera, it would let us know really what direction it was going, let us know what time it was moving, and give us some idea,
And you're the-
somewhere to start.
And you're the professional, that sounds great, and you're the professional. I'm just wondering, it's up to you guys about the entrance here.
Mhm.
You know?
Oh, as far as, I thought you meant vehicle traffic.
No, that's great.
Yeah, I would assume it would include the whole building. I mean, it would be
I'm
the
just
camera
wondering-
at the four corners and.
I don't know how the employees or anybody feels about that, but that might be a good thing to get as well, if we wiggle room, if we can find it. Thanks, chief.
Well, that wouldn't be the police.
No, but it'd still be,
Shared cost.
it could be a shared cost.
Shared
Yeah.
cost, yeah.
Okay.
So would you need two of those license read cameras
If we get
in
by
order
with
for it to
one,
function?
Not necessarily. I mean, the idea would eventually be to have every entrance or exit out of the city covered with a camera where, should something happen, we would have an idea of something coming in or something going out that we would need to know.
Placement be on those.
We just have to see, I mean, the busiest intersection would be 61 and 32
Yeah.
would get the most coverage right now.
I kind of
Can
like
we get
those
a car
ideas.
plate too?
It will read every plate that comes through. I don't know that it will flag us for I think you can set up, you can configure what
Get
it.
those tabs
what it
updated,
notifies.
Buck.
We don't want that.
No.
Just in case.
Right.
But the hot files would be determined by.
They would come
state
to our,
alerts and stuff
yes,
like
anything
that,
that's
right?
entered into the mule system, and then it would send us a notification that, hey, this plate is there now, and what direction it's going and everything.
And then exclude all others.
It will
right?
exclude all others. So if Mike Rainey drives through there, it's not gonna say, Mike Rainey just drove here, unless
Right.
your car has been listed as stolen.
Well, we should do that for him.
So in that excluded
I'm just saying,
data set, whatever,
I'm just saying.
where would that information go?
It doesn't go anywhere.
It's not stored?
Unless it hits on a hot plate, then it doesn't notify anybody or get stored anywhere. It just,
Okay.
And as I understand it, Chief,
So-
a hot plate would be one that, I'm so sorry, would be an Amber Alert plate?
well, stolen, has a warrant attached to it, has an Amber Alert
Yeah,
attached to
great.
it, something that's been
Okay.
listed in mules on that.
I like
And then mules will go back and backdate a couple days or however long it is. So if I run your plate today and next week you realize that your car was stolen, then it will go back and say, hey, why did you run this plate last week? You know, because it was, you know, maybe that's when it was stolen or whatever. So it will go back and look for those, anybody that's run that plate prior to it being listed as stolen, so. The training Lexapol is actually a manual, procedures manual, policy and procedure manual, company that will push out any updates, any legal updates that come along with the policy manuals, and then provide training on any changes that come of the policy manual, make sure that we're always up to date and all current with the legal standards.
Like use of force techniques?
Everything,
used to-
everything across the board on our policy manual. And then, so 3,000 of that is what we would normally already budget for training, to pay for training costs. The Lexapol service is 22,000. So it was just a management company that would oversee our policies and make sure that we're on board with all the legal updates that we need to be.
Is that not anything that could be accomplished? I mean, is that something we haven't been doing?
Well, it's something that we do internally now, it doesn't get reviewed as often as these people review it and push updates. It's what the sheriff's department has that they've gone to. It just, should we get listed in some lawsuit or something, and there's a policy that we've not reviewed or updated or anything like that, this, is hopefully going to mitigate any potential lawsuits on that.
And that's nothing to do with our insurance, they don't assist
They
with
do
that?
offer, well, no, but if we go with, I think it's MoPerm offers a discount if you have this service, but we don't have them right now.
And you said it was 22,000 for the Lexipol service, and then the additional 3,000.
3,000
for
is
your
what we
training.
budget every year for
Yeah.
training.
For,
So
continued
if this got
learning.
cut, it would be the 22,000 preferably, and we'd leave the 3,000 in there that we would normally have for our training.
So that's not something you have to do every year, you do, or it is?
There's an annual fee for it, after that, a maintenance fee.
So it's not just 22,000 then?
Let me check on that.
Okay.
I don't have that with me. And then the tasers is just upgrading the couple of old tasers that are now obsolete and making sure we have all the cartridges that we need for the ones that are being carried now.
That's a good idea.
Eric, we still had, I think I actually had the same question too, this SUV thing,
Mhm.
it was 98,000.
And we talked about that a little bit last time. Sue and I went through those numbers, and it really does not add up to us. I mean, it should be.
But
it
aren't you
should
not
be-
getting credited for the vehicles we sell? I mean, you should.
It doesn't come off of this, yes, I mean, so essentially we should have 5 leases, we should have 5 active leases. We can only find 4 active leases, but we've gone through it and we called the bank and everything is there. But so we entered into a lease, then we got another lease the year after that, and we've stair-stepped that. So so now we're to the point where one will come off as we add one on.
Right.
So we've paid off the lease that's 5 years old now, and we would be adding another lease that would basically just pick up where the other one left off. So there will always be one falling off if we continue this program.
I still don't understand why we don't get credit for the vehicles we sell.
Well, because it goes back into the general budget. We
Sure,
don't-
but it came out of the general fund
Yeah.
to begin with and got charged to you.
Right.
So there should be some relief.
That's not how it works.
I know, but
But the 75,000, we think cover.
We'll cover the,
And they are.
Because last year, they were like, because we had to go to the SUVs and stuff, wasn't it 98,000?
well, there again, this isn't for the cost of 2 cars. This is for the cost of all of the leases that we have active. So to add 2 cars, it's about $20,000 a year. But this lease payment covers all of the leases that we have active.
Oh, okay, I see.
So as one of those 20,000s fall off from the 2 cars that are now 5 years old,
Gotcha.
and we sell those, then another lease would come on for about $20,000 to take its place.
What do
So
we get? Durangos again?
probably, we'll have to see what, they're about a year out on build right now, so, yeah, so we'll have to see what is the cheapest and most available when the budget's actually
Motors
approved.
are back.
They are, but they took a pretty substantial price hike last 2 years ago, so.
Chief, what is the negative impact to the city for not having that 25,000 recommended for the video surveillance?
Status quo, I mean, we monitor the policies now. It would just be people that are hyperactive and looking at that.
I am, like, I think for the.
Oh, the video.
For the interview room.
We will need it for the interview room. I don't know that we would, I mean, this would include just regular surveillance, have it on our building should anybody break in or do anything.
Okay, so the interview room's fine, there's no impact to that?
Part of this proposed money would be to buy video surveillance equipment for the interview room to be equipped in the.
Any idea how much offhand?
I don't have that right now.
Okay, but, I mean, because the whole 25,000 is not recommended to go through.
Right.
So what do we do about that? You still need, and anybody, like, we still need that for the interview room, so how is that gonna work?
Is it not in the remodel budget, I guess?
I don't think it was included in the remodel
So it
budget.
seems like do we need to break that out of the 25 grand and list it as a separate line item so we know,
Or we look at it as an office expense whenever they determine what kind of system they would need in that room.
so it's under 5 grand, definitely then?
Theoretically.
Yeah, I mean, it's below your spending threshold, probably. Yeah.
So is
Okay.
that a separate system in the interview room, or?
Yes, it would be a closed network system where people could access it and watch the interviews and people on our network and record the data and everything, yeah. So preserve that for evidence and everything.
And budget-wise, if you can only have one of the two between the video surveillance and the Lexipol, you'd want the Lexipol. That'd be the better benefit for
I think it would be the
liability purposes.
better benefit to the city,
I agree.
just with the liability aspect. Any other questions?
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Okay, how about the animal tourism?
Tourism. Is our guy coming? 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
After the holiday. Starts September 7th.
Got it. Thank you.
So for tourism, we have a tourism grant. The state, if you remember last year, we had $60,000 to spend for tourism marketing. This year we have $70,000. We were allotted $70,000 from the state with a matching amount of $23,333. So we've included those amounts together as the tourism grant of $93,333. This will help us to advertise in various places like Central Illinois, Central Missouri. We'll do Missouri Life. We'll do other print ads, radio ads down in Memphis. That seemed to be pretty well received. So we think that, there's no reason to pass up $70,000 from the state. We need to replace the fire and burglar alarm at the Welcome Center. That's a $20,000 expenditure. $10,000 is from the Park Service, so there's an offset there. Same way with the skylight replacement. Earlier this year, we had big problems with water coming in. What's happened since, I have no idea, but it's slowed down some, but they've got to be replaced. We've got to get them in there. So that again is $20,000, $10,000 coming from Park Service.
You don't need that light.
Any questions?
None.
Oh, let's see, how old is that fire burglar alarm? It ain't from when it was built, is it?
I think so.
Is it?
It is, and we've been down there, the fire department's been down there probably at least a half dozen times in the last
I
9
remember
months.
that. I remember, not really?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
We have a problem with zone number 4, and the system's not marked well, and we end up having to search the entire building looking for it every time we go down there. So,
That ain't from the skylight leaking in there.
No.
This is another location, zone 4.
Zone 4.
Yeah.
For the tourism tax, we talked a little bit earlier, we're looking at, and I hadn't updated this, $18,400. So we looked at print materials that we had done for the last year. Most of those are rack cards that are out in various other welcome centers that are out and about in the state. We also do printed materials for, I can't think of, we do some advertising, some other print advertising. We do some radio advertising. We included a couple of categories for more print materials, more assistance. If some of the festivals, that are like the 2-day festivals, like the Jour de Fête, if they want to come in and maybe have us supplement what they do for advertising, we can help out with that. And then we put in $10,000 for a website. So we would like to see that website upgraded for tourism to have a call for action. So you look at what goes on and what's going on in St. Genevieve. You want to look for a bed and breakfast, you want to look for a motel, you want to look for the different houses to go visit. Get it where they're also going to make reservations. Right now it's just, here's what we have, enjoy and come have a good time. This, we want to get to where they're actually doing something to commit themselves.
Link up.
Yeah.
Happy, is one of our tourism directors' skill sets web design? I heard that he's into web construction. Is
Yeah.
that true?
Yeah.
That
He
could
has
be
his own
advantageous.
business that he does.
That'd be good, eh?
Yeah.
Okay. There's a cost saving. Okay.
Well, I don't know, we have to be careful about using somebody in their business that's an employee of the city.
Will he still have his business as an employee of the city?
He can, but utilizing him, we would have to look at him as like any other contractor.
Right.
We have to be careful with that kind of of issue.
Oh, you think about paying him, I just thought make it part of his job.
Oh, well,
I mean,
okay.
come on.
We didn't talk about
Right,
that.
Bo? David said just do that. Thanks, Bo, I appreciate that, I'll write that down. Thanks, Happy.
Any other questions about that? All right, so moving on to the legislative administration. So for the PIVA building, we're moving 100,000 over. For this part, this was phase 2. So we're doing phase 1, which is the police department. This is phase 2, was to redo this room. So we would knock this wall out, expand it, put in a return air wall, kind of a false wall out there. Figure out a way to make a board area instead of just having tables, and we would be able to expand the area width-wise. I think it would work. We've already created a new entrance, so this room will become not isolated, but it'll become accessible from outside and not through City Hall. We would redo everything that's up in the ceiling that we don't want to see, redo the walls. I mean, just do a nice refresh for this room. Maybe carpet, maybe not.
What? What? Oh, let's get rid of
Randy, get on that carpet.
Those
Duct
ripped
tape,
chairs.
more duct tape.
More duct tape.
So we put in for this part of it, for the architect, 22.5. It also includes new chairs. I've been told we have to get new chairs. Have to.
I'm pretty comfortable.
This has my imprint. All these years.
You'll be able to bid on your chair at auction.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Which one of these aldermen said that?
It wasn't alderman. It was a former mayor.
A former mayor?
Yeah.
Well, what kind of cloud is that?
It's just a former mayor.
Wait a minute, wasn't Buck a former mayor?
Former mayor could be shady though.
Wasn't Buck a former mayor?
Yeah.
How long ago?
We never even had these.
So are the
when I was
chairs
mayor.
included in that 22.5, or the 22.5 is just for the architect?
No, that's part of it.
Good question.
Chairs ain't cheap.
Thanks, Gary.
Yep.
Well, they're expensive. Oh,
Yeah.
actually, I wasn't trying to.
They are expensive.
I mean, our status with the Welcome Center
You do
building
okay.
and property, I mean, whatever changes about that expense-wise and,
How do you mean?
well, is, with the National Parks house there, I mean, is there any less liability on our part?
No, no. Because we still own the building, it's still our property, so we still have that maintenance requirement. The Park Service helps us financially with what we do for, we're working on that. We haven't gotten to that point yet, but that's what we're shooting for. And they work out of there. I mean, they're with our staff each day. But it's still our building and responsibility.
How many staff we got?
We have one per day. They have anywhere from 2, 3, maybe up to 4. This summer they would have 4 people in there because they had interns that would come in for the summer.
We just got one person.
We just have one, yeah.
How many do we have total?
3 part-timers. So we work Monday through Saturday, and then on Sunday, Park Service takes care of the building themselves. So they're there to greet people when they come into town and point them where to go.
Yeah.
And we haven't heard anything else about them moving forward on when they might take that deed over? I just want to make sure.
No,
Okay.
Not yet. All right, end of legislative, nothing in judicial, administration. I'm looking to get a small computer for our Zoom instead of using our laptop. That becomes troublesome at times just because of its age. It is not an XP unit at least, but it's a Windows 10, but there's just some issues that would help us.
What's the latest version?
Windows 10, which I think the latest version is going to be Windows 11. It's coming. And business license software. So I thought it was 20,000, but it's not. So what we have is 4,000 to get business license software for our G-Works. So this is for Pam to use to keep track of the businesses in town. Right now it's just a spreadsheet. So it doesn't, if you get the business license software, you can then link it to what you do for building and for water, and you have that interoperability between those modules. And that becomes a yearly expense of about $1,000 for maintenance. Any questions?
All good.
Yeah. Wait a minute. Flip side, debt service. I have 100,000 budgeted for the boardroom. So we spent 300,000 next door. I'm estimating high, but if we want to get it done well and done right, like we're doing next door, I would think 100,000 would pay for it.
Okay,
The sewer funds?
that's good.
And then for capital projects, we're looking at a comprehensive plan, 35,000. We had talked about this early on. That's, part of that is paid for by a grant with Regional Planning Commission. They have not started it yet. They're planning on it, but they're very busy with helping people with their ARPA funds, doing revolving loan funds. It's just finding time for them to get to do this. So I still want to keep it committed in our budget for them to be able to do it.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Did we cover the cemetery road extension?
Oh, no, I'm sorry, you're right.
Oh, let's keep that.
Wondering about that too.
So we are into a new section, and there is a road that, is it the lower road or the upper road that we would be extending? The cemetery, the upper road. So there's a road that's in there that goes, cuts across and dead ends. We have space between the burial sites that was marked off for a continuation of the road. So we keep going into this section, and then the same thing if we go into further sections, because we still have room to grow. We want to put in, an access road for those that want to visit family. So it's about $8,000 what we've estimated to do that road. I mean, it's not a major highway, so it's not that expensive, but still to get that extra I think it's 150 feet.
So that would be a section that, do we have an estimate of how long then before we need to do another section?
Well, we haven't extended yet, so we have finished up what would be the east, or just about finished up the east side of where that road is. We're now moving to the west side, and I'm not sure how long it would take to fill that area.
Is that more of a guess?
Yeah, 8 years? 8 years, okay.
So we're doing this well in advance of when we actually need it.
Well, we're doing it because we are extending over to the other side. So let's get this road in before we have it full
Sure,
of
sure.
people.
But we're not
And
gonna
then-
run into,
The what?
let's pave a road, but
Oh, yeah, right.
it's needed 2 months ago.
Yeah, I know.
No,
Okay.
no, we are doing it now while we think we have the funds. Let's
Yeah,
do it and
yeah.
then get ready for that next extension.
Okay. And you're comfortable with doing it piecemeal?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Thanks for saying that, I forgot about that. All right, any questions? Anything on any of the items that I've made recommendations or not made recommendations?
Yeah, that's something, damn.
So what we're looking for is finalizing what we have on here so we can put that into final budget. We'll bring it back to another work session next week, and then bring it back in September for adoption in case there's any other changes that everybody has. So fire away.
Yeah.
If you want to work your way down the list, we can. Do we want to, if you want to do that, we can go line by line on what you want to approve or not approve. I'm looking for a consensus, or you can do a vote every time, however you want to.
Nothing jumps out to me. Can we do a consensus? Ashley, how do you feel about that? Or do you want to go line by line? Do you have any questions?
So I think you had talked about wanting to maybe adjust what you have in the police department, what I recommended, and what you want to do.
I think that kind of depends too on if we need to make an adjustment for the video surveillance for the interview room.
Yeah.
Talk about, or we just in the.
Chief, do you have those numbers for the surveillance?
Or any guess.
You don't, okay. But again, that would be, I mean, we're talking something that could be approved and taken out of somewhere else
Right.
later.
And I wish, it's one of those things I wish we would have had it in when we did the building improvements, and we
Right.
required for it already. So this is after the fact kind of thing.
So is that something we need to do while they're acquiring back there?
I don't think so, would
Yeah.
it?
If you want us to ask, I mean, that would be,
It would be good.
it would be a change order.
Oh,
Yeah.
Right.
Save somebody a lot of headaches later.
Because I'm sure there's gonna have to be some special wiring or something.
I have no idea if HDMI or fiber, I don't know what that would be.
They use wires, right? They call it wireless, but they still use wire.
No, they're wired.
There's on wire.
Yeah, I think you wanted
Company.
wireless.
It's
or
a
security
wired.
one.
It's a Cat 5 type cable.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, you said that the company's wireless. Good, right?
That was his
That was
company.
a fiber.
That was my company for that.
Yeah.
Power systems.
Would that be the same thing for the police?
No, that's right.
Video.
Oh, I got
Yeah,
you.
video's a different, different animal.
Did you watch on TV when they get them? Certain questions.
Yeah, oh yeah, Matlock.
So
Matlock?
there's nothing but left.
Oh, that's
in
not
the
like
air,
Matlock.
transport
What
decade are you in?
parts. So
I'm
I
sorry.
watch
There's nothing
Matlock
left
and
to
Perry
transport
Mason
parts
every
this
night.
year for
Very
our
good.
So that's the-
19,000.
Don't get any better than that.
Like
No,
nothing to
that's-
hold over.
This
It is, it's
From
what you
love,
see
you
is the
guys.
balance.
Right.
That's part of the balance that you see, is from that. Yeah. That's what we've estimated. It is a low fund, it just doesn't have much in the way of balance.
Yeah, I just know like with the, like
I would
this,
think so.
typically usually there's like 5,000 in the parks. This past year we were at like 19,000 with the cell tower income and stuff like that. I know we haven't really spent
Right,
anything
yeah.
in the parks this past year, waiting to try to implement this plan. So I just was asking what if anything was held over from that. But we got the trail grant in there, so.
Right.
Thank you.
And the trail grant also includes money that we received from the community development. The 20,000 there for the trail, so.
And this is our matching portion of the grant, or,
No, that's the total. So that includes,
Oh, okay.
so the trail grant plus includes the trail grant, and it includes the infrastructure improvements that the park board approves every year, or tries to approve every year.
And what is the $2,000 difference on that line item?
I think it was, when I was refiguring it, I came up with a little less on what I needed to spend for the trail.
Okay.
So it's 95,
Not,
97.5.
not something got cut. It was just new.
It could be a typo
Okay.
for me as well.
Yeah.
Bless you.
Yep.
I think the only thing I see is if we need to look at that energy surveillance while we're building the
Yeah, I've
center
already-
rating.
I've got
So
that.
that's the only thing I see that I,
Would that be in this month? I mean, this year's budget?
It could be, it'll be added into the total project. The project's probably gonna go past our budget year, so we've already budgeted some more
Okay.
for next year.
All right.
So, but yeah, you're looking at just whatever the change order is gonna be to put it in.
Right. Probably shouldn't be too bad, I would think.
I don't know. Because everything open, it's a lot easier.
Yeah, they got it. Yeah, be good.
Yeah.
Plenty of holes in them steel, like that.
Less places for playground.
how would it be affected, if we move forward with Alliance on Public Works? Would anything here be affected?
Yes, that's what the $50,000 gap is on your streets to make up for that. So we have 250 listed in here, but we only have 200,000 listed on the streets. And we'll get some price, well, take that back. I got information from Ron today, so I know what the numbers are, and then we'll work it up and put it in the budget. If it's approved.
And those decisions would potentially come in at the same time. The approval of the budget and the potential vote for alliance, or
Well,
not for alliance.
So, yeah, so
So we'll be able to work those out.
the vote will actually come before we would go back into doing this, but it would be before we would bring it to you for a vote, an actual vote in September. So we're looking at trying to finish that or decide that next week, next Thursday. So then we'll know what to put in as we work our way towards September.
Yeah, I just don't want to get us into a pickle if one were to.
Yeah, fair enough.
Are we gonna talk about these streets?
If you want to.
I
Yeah,
mean, you prepared this for us.
yes.
I would hate to ignore it. We talked a little bit about Parkwood. Did you want to expand on that at all, Mike, before we talk about any of these other streets?
Well, I mean, I don't know how much of the meeting I want to take up with that discussion. I mean, obviously, I want to have some assurance, as I did when meetings ago, we talked about pushing off the 140,000 to get some other stuff done as well. I interjected at that time that I mean, personally, I'd like to see some assurance that Parkwood would happen the following budget year, and now we're here. So I'm skeptical, and I'm looking for reasons to stand on top of the table and stomp my feet on this, but I just want to know that it's going to happen, and I get it. It's if I'm looking at this right, the problem is the concrete. So it looks like it's about $3.63 a square foot versus about $1.50 for asphalt is what we're looking at.
Right.
So that's problematic, and there's all kinds of discussion that probably won't help anybody here that centers around that, like why is it concrete? How do we undo that mistake or whatever? But I just want to know that we have a high level of confidence that these ARPA funds are going to be available, that we're going to have, or not ARPA funds. I'm looking for a high level of confidence that we're going to find $140,000 to redo Parkwood. High level of confidence is what I said.
I mean, I'd like to see Parkwood done too, because it seems like the more we push that off, the further the second half of Lynn Drive continues to get pushed off, and the more we push Lynn Drive off, the less likely I am to get LaRose Street on there,
Yeah.
or Scott. And so I'd, with Parkwood being the biggest expense and Lynn Drive seeming to be the second biggest expense, I'd like to make sure that we're pretty confident in the ARPA funds as well.
I'm as confident as I can be at this point.
Understood.
Totally understand.
But yeah, like Mike, I almost want to make sure that those ARPA funds are coming in before we go and spend so much that Parkwood doesn't become an option for this coming year.
So our original estimate was a little over $800,000, so we'd be getting $400,000 in this first group. So I think, obviously that fits into that, and then depending upon what we want to do with, if we spend $140,000 on Parkwood, what else do you want to spend it on? And we can meet those costs.
Yeah, I think it's a confidence in the board as well to share that goal, to make sure that a portion of those ARPA funds are reallocated in a way that we can use it on Parkwood, so.
But on Parkwood, you were talking about a total tear out and a total go back. Have you looked at, any other options? I mean, just like what MoDOT did on 55, they ground it down and then overlaid it. I mean, is that a...
We looked at that when we were out, remember when we did the tour out there?
The concrete that's out there, all but one lane of it is rotten.
Yeah.
That's why
So it's not
overlaid, it needs to come out completely.
And the cost to do the milling part of it, if we wanted just to mill it down for the, for asphalt, you know, it just, you don't have a good base. That's the problem, is you end up not with a quality repair.
Well, I'm gonna chime in here like Mike did on Parkwood, from a safety issue is 9th Street with the school buses. You know, an hour in the morning and an hour in the evening, and, Buck, you can join in here anytime, but.
2 hours in the afternoon. Those
Wow.
parents have to get up there pretty early, get in line, so those.
Well, they're
those
coming up
roads
A
are-
Street and stuff, and they're parking.
Oh, yeah,
I mean, they're parking all the way down to Market Street now on pickup,
yeah.
waiting in line for an hour.
How much buses, that's right.
That's just a safety issue and stuff for the buses and the cars and, you know, the street's bad all the way up through there.
Pedestrian traffic is what I hear most about.
Well,
Yes, it's hazardous.
There's no place for them to go but right in the street.
Yeah.
Good point, Mike. Thanks, man.
You know, to widen it, how would you widen it? Because there's places there that, you know, you're gonna get
They're
in
right
the
up on the road.
corner of somebody's house or something,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, yeah, there is. Still, if you look at the utility poles, they're pretty close to the corner. I mean, they may not be exact, but there's
Making
areas
ways.
in there, it could be widened and stuff.
And
Look
feed
at
them
the
around.
fence of the cemetery.
Be safer for the kids.
It's
Off
all
one time, it was
Because we
like
had two
continuing
taken
a
out to
road
practice
out
already this year.
Maple or
Yeah.
Union or something.
It scares me
To-
every
to
time I go there.
reroute. But,
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't think we need to look at any more roads. We gotta take care of what we got.
You
Adding
might have
any,
to build it for us, 3 roads.
yeah, I had a call the other day on Rozier Street out there, a guy on a motorcycle. I mean, he said it's terrible on a motorcycle, Rozier Street.
Where at? I mean,
Oh, Rozier Street.
in the,
The part was rebuilt.
Sand?
No, house.
oh,
That's okay with me.
61 and, lease hall.
really?
I mean, it's rough, but.
They, they,
I don't know,
So Happy, at what point do we actually need to decide on these streets?
We would need to whenever we get ready to go out for bid. We kind of did that last year, but I wanted to give you, you know, at least what the numbers are for those roads.
Yeah.
These are the ones I think are the highest priority. 4th Street, because we need to finish it, and we need to finish that water line, so that one's kind of,
Fourth Street's a
it's
nice.
kind of a have to. Lynn Drive, we recently did some patchwork up there, so I figure it can get by for a little while.
It holds over, but I mean, it's pretty rough, and, I mean, some of those roads within the neighborhood, specifically, LaRose is probably the worst, Scott Street's probably the second worst in that neighborhood, but it's like, until we do Lynn Drive, I don't know that anybody's gonna put those 2 roads on there, and they're pretty rough, so.
Little Rock, because that runs out to Modoc, that's been a problem, and it's finally had some things that have been corrected. Now would be the time to fix it. The Park House parking lot is one of those areas that if we don't fix it, it will just crumble. I'm sorry, it already is crumbling. It has to be done, or we're not gonna have the parking lot anymore. 8th Street, 9th Street, we've talked about those. Those are options. Rozier Street Alley, the one up here between Park and Cedar, again, it's beginning to, it is really deteriorated. Rozier Alley, which is up in your guys' neighborhood, that is in bad shape. North 7th Street, again, just between Jefferson and Washington, needs to be replaced. North 3rd, Roberts to the end of maintenance, I mean, it's just potholes everywhere. And just needs to be redone, or we're gonna lose it. Parkwood, because of, you know, it's been patched, it's okay, but it needs to be redone. And actually, Point Base is kind of the same thing, from M Highway up to whatever road that is that intersects with it. That needs to be redone. Front Street is in bad shape as well, between Market and Merchant. That's gonna entail a little more work because it goes across a railroad. So that should be fun. And KSGM is like the parking lot. It's in bad shape. It has to be redone. You know, it's the KSGM and the Park House parking lot, a couple of the alleys, and 4th Street are probably the must-haves that we have to get done this year, or this next budget year.
What were those again?
So KSGM Drive, Park House parking lot, Rozier Streets, both Rozier Street Alley and Rozier Alley, and then North 4th Street, because we'll be doing the water line. And then that'll be it for that section of road. The Special Road District's gonna do their part out White Sands, so we'll have a nice clean road all the way from where it ends with 32 maintenance out north. It'll be nice.
On 4th Street, I saw Steve was talking about more water line work from Robert Street up to Washington. When will that happen?
That's coming. That's next year. That's on
Next
our
year, so
plan.
that street's gonna have to be,
That's the North 4th Street.
okay, that's your North 4th Street.
That's why we need to get
Okay.
it done. Yep.
Because we're already gonna do Maxwell Hill.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. LaPorte, Wiener,
Yeah, all
Cedar.
this, yeah, and then all the side streets in there, they're all tore up.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
When's that payment supposed to start?
Well, probably not till middle of September, the way it looks. A lot of work going on right now.
Yeah, I mean, I saw them working late last night and the night before,
I've
so.
been watching, they've been making a lot of headway.
Yeah.
So
They're coming down the hill in a hurry.
The estimate is that they're gonna be done with the water line next week? Water connections?
They're done. We finished them.
Oh, they're done, okay.
Sweet.
All right.
We still have about 70 feet to run on Wiener Street there, and that one will be done.
That's good.
Yeah, but MB's part of this is,
Yes.
yeah, MB's part is done.
Wow.
Yep. So then they're waiting for Jokers to come in and patch those areas, and then we'll have Bowman's come in after that, and they'll be doing the street repaving.
Jokers will be in Monday.
Okay.
Oh, you mean that, repair? That was probably oh, okay, that's right.
Abby, this isn't really capital item related, but are there other areas, well, kind of related, other than the alarm and the skyrite replacement that the Park Service is helping with?
So whenever we can get in to access what we're supposed to, they will be helping with personnel costs. So that'll be the tourism director and our personnel down there, and even some of what Gary does for maintenance. And then for some of the supplies, electric, that they'll be helping with us. Yeah.
Any estimate on,
Contribution?
or
20
no, on timeline?
On time, so, well, it was supposed to be 6 months ago, but we're, now to this point.
Yeah.
It's, so we're looking at, and we'll be going back. So it depends on when Chris puts in for his new budget in the next year, what he puts in for us to share.
But will it affect the our 22 budget?
It shouldn't, because it would just be a portion of it. Because we started it in May of this year, we go to May of next year. So it would just be a few months. It should be the same, roughly the same amount of money that would be contributed. Because they're only paying for that portion that actually benefits the park. So we've done the estimates on what our work is that benefits the Park Service. And that shouldn't change. So as long as he has money in there, then we should be able to pull it out. We haven't been doing that up to this point anyway. And that's why we wanted to work on the skylights and the alarm system, because we do have that money available.
Okay.
This may sound like a bizarre question, but do we know what the park's fiscal year is when it runs?
I thought it was October to September, same as ours, the federal government.
That would be helpful.
But I think they work it a little differently, because again, we started
I'll ask him.
we started later than what their normal budget year is.
Okay, thanks.
All right, so what we will do with the work session next week is we don't have any real changes that you've asked for, except for wiring for the cameras, and maybe finding out what the cost is for a camera in the interview room. Thank you. Is there anything else you wanted to add back in, or anything else you wanted to, for us to do?
On that note, I would recommend, regardless of what the team's decision is on that surveillance piece, I think that cabling needs to get done anyway. I mean,
At least
walls
have the-
are open,
Yeah, at least have the cabling
Yep.
installed.
future-proof it for when, if we couldn't fit that in, but I think we need to fit that in because that makes you independent of any other agency. So,
Yeah.
And I didn't feel comfortable, because of the cost of the project to begin with, to then add something on, even though I can see the wisdom behind it, but I don't want to be the one to say, let's do it. Because, it's an expensive project as it is, so.
What are your thoughts about looking into the prices or pricing of security for the Welcome Center? Could we look into what it might cost to get
That's what the estimate is.
That is?
Yeah, so that would be the fire and burglar alarm system.
Okay.
Yeah. I've already researched that.
Thanks, Abby.
Yeah.
Good, that's a good price.
Yeah, we've got 4 skylights, we're estimating at $5,000 each. Seems excessive, but to get a good skylight, you've got to pay for it. And the labor involved to get them on that roof.
How much to close it up?
Well, that's a good thought. They all leak skylights are terrible.
Would you like blue tarps or brown tarps?
Brown tarps. What would you like, Gary?
I like
You're
the
gonna be
blue.
looking at 'em.
I like the blue tarp myself.
always blue.
Oh, wait a minute, green, right,
Put a big
Bova?
smiley face on it?
I'd like to have green and white, please, tarp.
That's just the skylights.
All they do is leak.
All right, so we'll move forward with what we have here. We'll get some prices on the items we just talked about, and then we will bring you back a final draft next Thursday. And maybe I won't have any typos. No promises.
This was really well done. Congratulations to your team, your staff, your management. This was really, really well put together.
Good work.
Now, they're the ones that do all the hard work. They're the ones that keep us in budget.
That was great.
Yeah.
I think that's all I got. Do you need a motion?
Don't need a motion, is that it?
That's it.
We'll call this meeting adjourned.
Thanks, Mayor.